Hello everyone and welcome back to the Meeple Marathon. We are going to be doing a playthrough of the Big Book of Madness today, but we are going to include the newest expansion, the Fifth Element. Technically this is the only expansion. I have gone ahead and set up the board here, and I just want to highlight a few things. Just some basics for anybody that's not familiar with the game, and anybody that is familiar with the game. I'll highlight what has been added with the two different modules that are included in the expansion. These are modules that you can bring in and take out of the game as needed. You can play with just one, or you can play with both. That's what we're doing today. We're going to play with both. Essentially, for the game in general, what we have done is we have created a book of monsters. We will, at the beginning of each round, flip over one of these pages, and you will see that each one has 3 elements associated with it. So we will take a card here, and these have all been shuffled up so I don't know what's coming, based on that element, and we will lay it out down here in one of these 5 slots. It will then be our job to get rid of that curse, hopefully before we land on that spot on the track. If we don't, then we will actually have to do what's on the curse, and then we'll continue to move around, and you can see that spot 3 even has 2 curse cards represented by 1 spot on the track. If you are able to defeat all of the curses before you get back around to this little symbol here, you get the victory condition for that monster. If you don't, then you take the defeated condition, and it doesn't matter either way. You're going to flip to the next page. And you don't have to defeat the curses before you get to them. You could actually defeat these 2 here, suffer this one, but then, say on turn 4 here, you could come all the way back and defeat this one. So they don't have to be defeated in order. You don't have to defeat them before you reach them. All you have to do is defeat them before you get back around here after turn 5. Essentially, all we have to do is survive to the 6th monster in the book, then we have to defeat the 6th monster. So, it's basically like just surviving, doing your best to defeat everybody, but surviving till the end, and then you have to defeat the final monster in order to win the game. We have some basic spells here and some basic element cards that I'm going to cover here in a second when I zoom in on each of the 2 characters that I'll be playing with. But you can see here that we have some upgraded elements. So there's a 2 and a 3 upgraded for each of the 4 basic elements. And then this new expansion adds the dark element, which there is only ones of. There are not 2s and 3s of the dark element. So those of you familiar with the base game, you're only going to see a big stack of 1s here. There are also these spells over here, which we're going to flip over here in a second. These are spells that are advanced from your basic spells and can be learned throughout the game. So, for example, here we have Stone Skin. You have to pay 2 green elements to buy this card, and then when it's in front of us, we can pay 1 green element to destroy 1 card from our hand or support pool, then receive 1 higher value. So we're essentially, thinning out our deck of the low cards and beefing them up. You would, tap this in your turn, so you can only do it once. But also, for spells like these, if I say, yes, it only takes 1 green to pay for it, but if I use 2 green to pay for it, all of these numbers in the white circles here are bumped up by a factor of 2. So I could actually destroy 2 cards and receive 2 higher value cards if I paid for it with 2 green instead of 1. And now you can see, as I'm revealing these first ones, underneath it is a 2, and then even underneath that one is a 3. So there is 1 level each for the 4 different elements. There's 1 spell at each level. Once you have purchased the level 1 spell, then it's gone. And the only other option is a level 2 spell. So for this one, Torrential Rain, you can pay a blue element, and 1 player will shuffle their discard pile and support pile back into their deck. Not sure how helpful that one is. Let's see, the red one is Warm Blooded. I do like this one. You can discard 1 Madness card, then for each Madness card you discarded, you draw 2 cards. We'll talk about madness cards in just a second. And this final one, the top one, is going to be Breath. Give one card from your hand or from the support pool to another player's hand. So normally the cards that you draw stay in your hand even if you put them out in support for the other people to use. They go back in your discard pile, but this one you can actually pass cards back and forth, which is an interesting mechanic. I mentioned just a second ago Madness. There are instances where curses will give them to you, monsters will give them to you. When you have to shuffle your deck and flip it back over, you will gain Madness. These are essentially dead cards in your hand that don't do anything. You can't discard them, but you can use certain spells like Warm-Blooded to discard them. Other spells, like your basic spell Combustion here, allow you to destroy them. Destroy takes them out of the game. This isn't a legacy game, you're not going to rip it up, but one of the defeating conditions, other than making it to the final monster and losing, is that if this stack runs out, there's a finite number of Madness cards in that stack, and if it runs out, we lose. That means too many of them in our hand. Also, if at any point in time, if one player, their entire hand is full of Madness cards, they can't make any plays, essentially. They are eliminated. That one specific magician is eliminated. So you want to heal these, which puts them back into the pile, instead of discarding them keeps them in your hand, keeps them in your deck, and destroying them removes them from the game, so you can't actually put them back and heal them back into the deck. So that can be a problem, because after a while, consider every time you shuffle your deck, you're going to pull one of these off. So you want to try and heal them and not destroy them, but there's both those type of cards. In the expansion is a Phobias module, which I have added in to the game, and instead of 20 regular standard Madness cards, which would all look like this, and they all look like the card on the back here, there are Phobias, which are mixed in here, and let's just pick one. This one would say acquiring one element card costs you one extra element at the same time. So basically these are kind of make life difficult for you. And instead of them staying in your hand and filling up your hand like Madness cards do, they go into your support. And we will talk about support in a second, but they stay in your support and they're constant effects until you can cure them away or discard them by playing certain effects. So this is one of the elements that's part of the expansion that's new. You can play with or without Phobia cards. We have added them in here. This is simply just a stack of the various elemental curses, and you can see according to this chart, as you get further and further along, the monsters get harder because you start adding in these multi-element cards, which are over here at the beginning of the track. So by the end, we will, even though the monster only produces 3 curses, we're going to be filling up these first 2 with multi-element cards, curse, curse, curse. So all of these will be filled. These dark element ones way over here are what have been added in based on the dark matter module of the game. So the module gave us some new monsters which have been thrown in there who might give us dark matter curses, and we would have to use these, of course, to get rid of those curses. Now the final thing as part of this setup that came with the expansion that is new is this dark book. And you can see I'm going to go ahead and flip the page. It works very similar to the Grimoire, but the dark book actually gives you what they call dark charms, and these are benefits to you, essentially. Like this first one says exchange one card with one other player, and this one says cure all madness from your deck and discard, then shuffle your deck and discard together. So you've got these 2 things here. Obviously this one you would pay 1 dark matter to do, this one you would pay 2. You can do the one on the left as many times as you want, over and over and over again. There's no limit to you as long as you can pay for it. However, the one on the right is only available 1 time for the entire game. Whichever character magician uses it, then it's gone, because at that point then you will flip the card and you will put out 2 new spells. The one on the left, again, can be done multiple times, multiple times, multiple times, and then the one on the right can only be done once, and when you do, you flip it over, and you eventually can get to the point where you close the book and it's no longer of use to you. So it's this push and pull of how badly do I need to do the one on the right. Do I want this one up anymore? If so, then I can't do the one on the right because I'm going to lose it. So it's a very interesting mechanic for this kind of push and pull of how you're using the dark matter. Not just, dark matter is not just going to come out to cure the dark matter curses. Also, just a general note for these dark matter cards, they're almost like wild cards. You need to discard two elements of a different color, one, so like a green and a blue, or a white and a green. They can't be the same color, so you have to discard two of different colors to get a dark matter card, and then two dark matter cards, because they're all singles, so two dark matter cards can equal one elemental color of your choice. So say you had a green elemental out on the board that you had to defeat, and you only had a 3 elemental card in your hand, but you also had 2 dark matter cards. You could play this card and then the 2 dark matter cards, these two equaling that 4th earth elemental, and then you have done it. And you can, so that's just another interesting way that you can use the dark matter, is that they are essentially wilds when it comes to the other colors. Okay, so here is one of our magicians along with their starting setup. Now these were both magicians that I'm going to be playing with here were found in the expansion. So you can see both of these guys actually are starting with some dark magic. The other ones obviously don't have those in their starting deck, but you can also see there's no fire in this one. So they are, this one's lacking fire, and the other one's lacking air. So fire and air we're definitely short on in general, so I'll have to look to beef those up right off the bat. But you can see here, these are essentially what I have in my starting deck here. Since it's a green magician, I get a 2 green and then a bunch of other ones. And this person's special ability, I'm not even sure if it's a him or a her, to be honest with you. On your turn, you may destroy 2 identical cards to add 1 superior element to your discard pile. So this is a great deck thinning mechanic that I could destroy 2 1s to get a 2. Or it actually says to add 1 superior element to your discard. Can I destroy 2 1s and give me a 3? I'm not sure. I'll have to look into that. But you can also see here, these are the starting spells. They're identical for both characters. Your red one is destroy a card from hand. Draw a card for green. Your white one, which is what makes this deck builder quite unique in respects. I can't think of any others right now off the top of my head that allow you to give the other players actions on your turn. So this is the basic one, and it's a really powerful card. One other player takes 1 action, and then this one place 1 card from your hand into support. So support references, you can see these like kind of shaded in areas. You can put up to 3 cards in support, and they just stay there. They hang out. They don't count towards your hand limit or anything like that. And you can use them, and any other people you're playing with, your partner, whoever, can use them as well. When they're used, they go back into your discard pile. But essentially, you're putting them out there in a common pool that stays there until they're needed. So it's a great way to prepare for upcoming spells because you know they're coming. So you would use a blue to put a card in support, but say you are wanting to get rid of a curse and you are just 1 element shy, and you know your partner has that element or somebody else you're playing with has that element, you can use 1 white to give them a turn. They can then play a blue to turn their card and put a element of their choice into the support, and then you can immediately use it. So and what happens is that anytime you use cards or spells, they are turned sideways, tapped like so, and they stay this way until the beginning of your turn. So if you were to have used this already and someone wanted to give you a turn, you wouldn't be able to use ice because ice would already be exhausted and it won't refresh until the beginning of your turn. So you always draw up your cards, your hand back up to 6 at the end of your turn, so you always have cards in your hand to use for other people to use telepathy, but you don't necessarily always have your spells. So that is something to consider here. And here we have a look at our other starting mage. This one again is also from the Dark Matter expansion, so you see she actually got to start with 3 Dark Matter in her hand. She has no air cards, but at the beginning of her turn she can draw as many cards as you have phobias in support. Now remember, phobias go in support here and they will either cover up a card that's already there or they'll fill an empty slot, allowing you not to fill it. But say you've got 2 phobias that you're dealing with, it actually will allow you to draw 2 additional cards. You could draw up to 8. You know, your hand limit would become 8 at the beginning of the turn. So that is just a nice boost. That's why I took these 2 people. The other one because I felt like I could thin my deck really easily, and this one because I feel like even if I have phobias, it's not going to hurt me. I can actually beef up my hand size for that particular round, and it will enable me to, you know, mitigate having that phobia on board. So again, this is my starting setup, and I'm going to go ahead and cut the video off here so it doesn't get too long, and pick back up with the start of the game in a separate video. So be looking for that to come very soon.